Welcome to another week of Project Life videos with Two Peas in a Bucket. I'm Garden Girl Marcy Penner, and today I'm going to show you how I work with a combination of color photos and black and white photos. I'm laying out my photos according to how I had them in my planner. I drew a chalk template on the top of my tabletop, and I'm going to use that again to help guide me throughout the week. My tabletop is just painted with black paint, and I find that the chalk wipes off easily with a wet rag when I'm done. So I'm going to go through a lot of my Pebbles products and take out some journaling cards from the journaling card packs and some of the post-it notes that came with the new line. And I'm just going to rearrange them a little bit on my page. I'm looking for some loved themed items since the week that I'm doing falls on a Valentine's Day. So right now I'm just going through the Pebbles journaling card packs, and I'm finding some 3x4 ones that will work in my 4x6 spots to go with my photos. And I'm just filling in the empty spots that I have. I'm trying to use more of the accent cards. I tend to fill up every spare inch with journaling, and so I want to add a bit more of those in my pages. I also like the 12x12 pattern papers that a lot of companies have put out that let you trim apart 3x4 cards and add them to your pages. So I'm just working now with some reds and adding some yellows and some teals, and just kind of placing things where I think I like them. I'm going to start with this upper right side. I want to trim that accent card down so it's the same size as my photo. And I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm not a huge measurer and it doesn't need to be exact for me. So I'm just going to line it up and trim it square so that it's about the same size as my photo and it will go across the 4x6 spot. So I like that, and I'm going to use the American Crafts POW paper. I really like the silver glitter. I think it'll work really well with the snow on that photo. So I'm just going to trim this down to a 4x6, and I'm going to use that as my background. So I'm going to place this beneath my photo and my accent card, and I'm going to adhere it down if I can. I'm not 100% sure that the glue will stick, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm going to use my Tombow adhesive, and it's not really sticking to the glitter. I just need it to stick a little bit because I tend to sew down my items anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that and just tack it down. So that's good enough for me, and I'm going to stick a piece of washi down, and I'm going to sew that. So it's sewed down and everything is secure, and I'm going to go through my wood veneer and see if I can find some snowflakes to go with my winter pages. I'm going to take out a couple different sizes and play around with them a little bit, and I'm going to work with both of these photos because they happened on the same day and they go together. So I'm going to journal directly on this one, and I use a matte printing paper so it works out great. And then I'm going to move around my snowflakes a little bit more. I left some room at the top when I was journaling so that it would fit, but it's not enough for the big one. I'm going to try the small one there. And I think it needs something else. So when all else fails, I go to my enamel dots, and I'm going to play around with those a little bit and try one of the smaller blue ones there. And I'll maybe add another one. So we have a group of 3. And I think I like that. So I'm going to stamp the date on that one. Not 100% sure about the snowflake at this point, so I haven't glued it down. I'm going to try the bigger one, and I think I like that a little bit better. So we're going to adhere that with my adhesive. And then I'm going to continue working on that other page. I wanted something else that wasn't a wood veneer over there and was a little bit larger. So I'm going to go with this Cosmo Cricket fabric brad. And I'm going to use my awl to poke a hole through. And I'm just going to place the brad in and fold it back. I think I'm pretty happy with how these two go together, so I will leave them. I'm going to move on to this photo in the upper left. It's a full 4x6 photo and fits the whole pocket, so I'm just going to add a little journaling card from the Teresa Collins He Said, She Said die cuts, and I'm going to just layer it on top of my photo on the left-hand side. I kind of went with the gray tones that were in the photo already, And I'm going to glue that down, and I'm going to add something on the very top. So I'm going to see if one of these arrows from the new Studio Calico Snippets line fits on top. I'm pretty sure one of them should fit quite nicely. So I'm going to go with the pink. I find it kind of matches the tone of the rest of the photo. And I'll journal on that and stamp the date, and that one's going to be really simple and done. I'm going to trim a piece of this Amy Tangerine paper from the Yes Please line, and I'm going to have it be a 4x6 so that I can use it for the entire background of a pocket. I'm going to layer the photo and the journaling card on top of it, and there's a wash on this pattern paper that has a bit of an orange in it, and I want that to be beneath the journaling card. I'd rather have the pink showing near the photo. So I'll position it that way, and I'm going to glue that down. And I think I'm going to probably fill up that whole spot with journaling. So I'll just use a little bit of washi as an embellishment on this page. This is from Freckled Fawn, and it has just some subtle gold dots. I didn't need anything standing out too much. And the wood veneer is from Studio Calico. So I'm going to add that. It says hello there, and I'm going to add a little phone brad. The photo is of my daughter and her iPhone, so I thought both of those items really went with the topic of this journaling card. So I'm going to use my awl again and poke a hole for the brad. I did a bunch of messy stitching beneath it just for a little bit of kind of tone-on-tone texture. So I'm going to poke that through. And then I'm going to add my date stamp and some journaling. I'm moving on to this 3x4 card that I trimmed from a sheet of pattern paper. And I want the flag to stick past my photo a bit. So I'm going to cut a big circle in the center so I can get my scissor in. And I'm going to trim neatly around the bottom 3/4 of the flag. You can trim as messy as you want in the middle because it's going to get covered by your photo anyway. As long as I trim nicely around my flag, then I'll be in good shape. So I'm going to place that in and see if I have it cut deep enough for my photo, and I do. So I'm going to glue that on and tuck that over and add a little bit of journaling. I'm going to journal on the top and the bottom of the photo this time. I love trimming flags past like that. It adds a little bit of dimension to the pocket. Moving on to a more Valentine themed pocket. So I'm going to trim a piece from Crate Paper's 14 collection. They have a pattern paper with a bunch of smaller sized cards on it. And I'm going to use one piece for my mat. I'm choosing the one with the bright map on it, but I'm concerned that it's a little too bright and busy for my spread. So once I place it down near my other pockets, I decide that it is too busy, and to counteract that, I'm going to layer a piece of vellum over it. This piece has been used for a lot of punching snowflakes, obviously, and today it's going to be Valentine's. So I trimmed a 3x4 piece, and I'm going to place it in between the pattern paper and my photo. And I find that it mutes the pattern quite a bit, and it blends in more with the pinks and the mint greens that I have going on in this spread. And now another Valentine pocket. I have two photos of flowers that my husband brought home for my daughter and I for Valentine's Day. And I'm going to mat each of them with a different Valentine themed paper. One is from Crate again, and the other one is from American Crafts. And a lot of the pattern won't show because I'm cutting it pretty close to the photo itself, but I wanted the colors to work out, so I happened to choose Valentine papers anyway. So I'm just going to work with my placement a little bit, and they're a little too large, so one's going to fit underneath the other. And I'm just going to adhere my photos to that and make sure I'm happy with it before I glue them down onto the 4x6 card in the back. And I left a little bit of room at the top for my journaling. I have a photo that has a lot of white space on it. So instead of journaling directly on it with a pen, I'm going to run it through my typewriter and type in the bright white space on the top part of the photo. I love the combination of typed text and handwriting together. I don't always remember to do that. I often work with finishing it quickly and simply in mind, so I'm trying to be more conscious of mixing my typewriter with my handwriting. So I like that, and I'm going to use that empty space to add the time. The photo is of my daughter's bus drop-off at the end of the day, so I thought a great title for that would just be the time that she actually does come home. So I'm going to pick off the letters from the basic gray alphabet set with my X-Acto knife and just place them down. And I'm going to pick out the centers of the letters once it's down. Often I find that's easier than picking them out beforehand. So I need to look for another card to fit in a 3x4 spot, and I found this one in another one of the Pebbles journaling packs that says check it out, which I really love. And the photo I'm using actually covers the bottom part perfectly. So all I'm going to do for this one is glue that one down, and I'm going to journal in the top section, which is opposite of what was intended with this card, but it works for the spread. And again, I wrote the date on the back of my photos because I can never remember when I'm printing. So if I peel back my photos to check, that's what I'm doing. I don't get to use pink a lot. My daughter's a teenager and doesn't let me take pictures of her all that often, so when I do get a chance to use pink, I will. So I've trimmed this My Mind's Eye pattern paper into a 4x6 card, and it has a really cute pink floral print on it, and I'm going to layer one of the Pebbles post-it notes on the bottom right of it. I love these post-it notes. You get so many of them, and they're the perfect size for project life and for little notes and lunch boxes and all kinds of stuff. They last forever. So I'm just going to glue that down, and I'm going to layer one of these crate vellum banners. I really love these banners. I think they're adorable. So I'm going to pick one that works with my photo, and I'm going to place it on the top part of my photo, going off onto the pattern paper a little bit. I think it ties in the left and right side of that card so they look more like one rather than two separate items. So I've got that glued down, and I'm just going to add my journaling and move on to the next card. So this one is a photo of my son skating at the skating rink, and I'm going to add a yellow card from the Pebbles pack on the left. I thought it brought out the yellow of the boards in that photo. So I'm going to journal on this one and figure out how I want to complete that. As I'm journaling, I don't really have anything in mind that I'm going to write. I write until I am near the end and then try to wrap up that last sentence. In this case, I ran a little short and I have some room at the bottom, so I'm going to add my date stamp in there to fill up those extra 2 lines that I didn't have enough journaling for. On this journaling card, I'm going to add a 3x4 photo on the left, and I'm going to add a Studio Calico Polaroid frame on the right. I'm going to add my journaling inside it, so I am going to want to make sure I know where I want it before I start. And I'm just going to punch out a title from a Teresa Collins die cut sheet. And I'll use that either on the upper part or the lower beneath the Polaroid. I'm not too sure yet. So I'm going to glue the Polaroid down and fiddle around with my title a little bit before I start journaling in the middle. This journaling card has a black and white photo on it, which I'm trying to mix in more with my color photos. I really like the way the two of them look together. I'm very confident in my processing of the color photos and not so confident in my black and white conversions. So I am making more of an effort to mix the two together. I like the variety that they lend to my project life spreads. So I have that one, and I have this other black and white photo. And next week, hopefully, I'll remember to do some more. So this one's just having a label on the top and the date stamp. And then I have one more spot to fill. I trimmed a News This Week card from a My Mind's Eye piece of pattern paper, and I'm just going to use bullet points to note some things that happened during the week that didn't make it onto photos. And one last change, I didn't like the weight that the left-hand side had with all the reds, so I swapped it with a different card. And I realized that the card on the lower right didn't feel finished to me, so I'm going to add 2 enamel dots to either side of the title to add a little bit of dimension and interest. It was just feeling a little too flat for me by itself. So that is the spread for this week. So my challenge for you this week is to mix color photos with black and white photos in your project life spreads. I hope you're enjoying the weekly series from Two Peas in a Bucket, and I look forward to seeing your spreads in the gallery.